Hello guys, welcome to another installment of Ask Nobbins, the show where you submit your questions for me to answer. Today, we are answering questions about the future of Marmoush. Does he have one? The future of Echeverry. Does he have one? What should City be doing in the January window, if anything? And what is the situation re Manchester City's corners? If you have a question that you want addressed, leave it in the comment section of this video. We're going to be starting, though, with a question about Haaland and our reliance on him. This is from Dark Gamers 4590, who says, Nobbins, are we getting relegated if Haaland gets injured? I'm going to assume this is a hyperbolic question. What Dark Gamer is really after as a question is, are City too reliant on Haaland? There's that really fun stat going round of the top scorers for City in the league, and number 2 is own goals. Like, no one else has got more than 1 goal in the Premier League apart from Haaland and own goal. City are very reliant on Haaland for scoring goals. But that is sort of by design because he is our best goal scorer. It makes sense to, if you can, facilitate for someone who I believe is the best number 9 in the world and the best goal scorer in the world. I would be more concerned if it were the opposite, if we weren't getting Haaland into these decent positions and we weren't facilitating Haaland to score lots of goals. The reality is that he is leading the Golden Boot charge. He's likely to win it again this season. City have scored the most goals in the Premier League as well. So I get the concern, but ultimately I don't really think it is that much of a problem. I would actually contend it would be more of a problem if it were the other way around. Just addressing the fact of, are we getting relegated basically? How can City cope without Haaland? What we can't do is view like a Haalandless Manchester City side through the lens of how we expect a Haaland City side to function, because they aren't going to operate in the same way. If Haaland is in the side, then a lot of chances are going to be made for him. That's going to be the main thrust of the offensive play. But if he isn't in the team, then all of a sudden the dynamics change. It's not like the team's still trying to create and facilitate for a player that is no longer in existence on the football pitch. Whether that's Marmoush as a striker, whether that's Foden false 9, Cherki false 9, or some other variants therein. They're not going to be playing the same way in the final third. They're not going to be creating in the same way in the final third. But we have goal scorers in the side. We have players like Foden, who we know is going to get double digits this season. I'd be staggered if Marmoush didn't get double digits this season. I'd even throw perhaps Reinders and maybe Cherki into that as well. We have a lot of goal scorers at City. The example I always bring up is the treble year, 22-23, because people are saying, Haaland's our only key goal scorer or chief goal scorer in the side. That's inherently a bad thing. Treble year, Premier League, 2 players got double-digit goals in the league. One was Haaland, who got 36, broke the record, and second was Foden. Everyone else was single digits. Now, if Haaland goes off form and, goes off a cliff, then that's a different conversation to be had. But he is a world-class number 9, and right now we don't need to worry about that. We know that this team's able to create and still score goals without him. I get the concern, but hopefully that's put some concerns to rest. Sticking with the topic of goal scorers, I brought up Marmoush then, and as has Cameron Hofer 5858. A fair few people brought up Marmoush because in the last video we focused more so on the form of Doku and why he should not be sold, despite people around a month or so ago claiming that he should have been sold. So lots of questions on Marmoush. This is one of them. Cameron asks, with Doku and Haaland on great form right now, where is Marmoush getting minutes? Is it cameos as a sub, cup games, or in the 10? First thing I want to get rid of is this idea that Marmoush can play in the 10, because he can't. Not at all. Not in my opinion anyway. His first touch isn't good enough, and he's not this sort of creative passer anyway. It's not really in line with his skill set. He's not tight enough in those smaller areas. He would lose the ball too much. I just don't think that he has the mechanics, the traits for it. So I just want to scratch off any idea of him playing in the 10, whether that's in place of a Cherki or a Foden or whoever. I don't really consider Marmoush for that sort of area of the pitch, or rather in that role anyway. So where's he going to get minutes? Now, I could have a chat about the on-ball situation, and that could be a really interesting conversation to have. But based on evidence, I actually think that the more simple way to look at this is how are City, so far, setting up off the ball, out of possession. And right now, City are not playing their typical 4-4-2. They are playing a 4-3-3 / a 4-1-4-1. For every single game so far this season, that has been the out of possession shape. So for the purposes of this question, based on the evidence we have, I've got to assume that we are going to continue to play that, because that is the evidence that we have. That's all I can really go off logically. So where does Marmoush actually play in that sort of shape? That's the first thing that I think we should look at. If Haaland's fit, he's not playing at striker. If Haaland isn't fit, this is an easy fix. He just plays down the centre as a striker in a 4-3-3. Not a problem. But we are assuming that Haaland is going to play the vast majority of games outside of an injury. So Haaland's clearly got that striker position locked down. Now, people have told me that Marmoush can play at right wing, and I will just have to take their word for it, because I've never seen Marmoush have a good game at right wing. I don't think he's ever played at direct right wing for City. He's played off the right for City and has never looked as competent when he plays off the left. For Frankfurt, they played with wing backs primarily, and he was never playing as a right wing back. He was always like one of the two strikers. So that just leaves one position, and that is left wing, off ball, in a 4-3-3. Nobbins, Marmoush isn't a winger. For the purposes of this conversation, for the purposes of Guardiola's system, yes, Marmoush is a winger. Certainly off ball. So that's what really matters. The only position really to be had is that left side, isn't it? Assuming we are playing with a 4-3-3. Because I don't really want Marmoush to be playing central midfield. I think that would be horrendous. I really don't want to see that. All I can see is left wing. So that does mean that he would be competing with Doku for the most part. Off ball anyway. Now, if City changed to a 4-4-2 or a different off ball shape, then you can very easily accommodate both Doku and Marmoush in the same side, with Doku as the technical left winger and then Marmoush more like a left inside forward situation when City get in possession. You would then have to drop one of Foden, Cherki, Reinders probably to do that, but technically it could work with Haaland, Doku and Marmoush. Whether that's optimal, that's another question. That could work. But if we're starting with 4-3-3 off ball / 4-1-4-1 off ball, I can only see left wing being the option, in which case that does mean competing with Doku. I think that is a healthy dynamic of competition. It's not like they are both players who needs to start every single time. If this were Marmoush and my favourite player, Rodrigo, I think that's a different conversation, because they're both sort of, or certainly Rodrigo's side, under the assumption, you would assume, that he's starting the vast majority of games, whereas Doku's not necessarily been brought in to be that sort of player. Marmoush, maybe he has been. I would argue he has, but prove yourself. You've lost your place in the side as far as I'm concerned, because Doku's been great. Earn it back. So right now, it would have to be instead of Doku. I can't really see where else he would play in the side. I still think he has a definite future in this squad, 100%. As many minutes to go around. There are many games to go around. But if we're sticking with a 4-3-3, outside of Haaland getting injured, the only avenue I can see for him to get integrated into the side is at left wing. We've got this one from Yusuf Ibrahim 2738. Do you think we should go buy again in January? And other than right back, what do you think City will focus on the area of the squad next season? Incomings, I think, are going to massively depend on outgoings. We can assume that Bernardo's going to be not with the club next season. I'd probably add Kovacic to that as well. So City will definitely have to sign, just by virtue of numbers, another central midfielder. So I'll be looking at that area of the pitch next summer, and we all know right back is a thing as well. The more I think about the right backs, in light of the Livramento injury, everyone knows that he was my number one choice. The market, as far as I can see, is very limited. So many people in my live chat, for example, will say no to projects. We can't sign a project right back. The problem with that way of thinking is, as far as I can see, there aren't many available truly elite / bordering on elite right backs the City can even get. The obvious ones would have been like, I think Livramento is like, will become elite very quickly, but do City want to go for him given his injuries? Perhaps not. There are a few excellent right backs out there, but they're playing for clubs where they're not realistically going to leave. Let's take Timber. He's never going to leave Arsenal. He would have been my dream signing if club dynamics weren't a problem, but they are. You know, Trent's not going to join us, for example. He's just joined Real Madrid. So you sort of, by definition, have to, unless you want to go for like a mediocre, older right back, and I don't really get why you would want to do that. I think that the best policy would be probably to now wait until the summer and really properly look at those prospect right backs who are playing well now and could do a job right now, and try to predict, okay, now how are they going to is their ability going to scale? Essentially, is it going to scale? Let's take Martin Fernandes at Porto. Very exciting, fun, 19-year-old prospect. Play right back, left back, right centre back in the back five. Very attacking player. Looks very fun. Can he scale to become a Manchester City player next season? And I think the answer to that question is you just have to wait and see, and we need more of a sample size. There are a lot of right back options out there. I will be doing an analysis video of these more younger right back options, but these are not the finished article right now. And we sort of are going to have to, by definition, buy a prospect. Now, prospect doesn't mean a child who is rubbish right now. They can be still an upgrade on what we have right now, but can become something truly great. Got one from Eddie, not a question, but I wanted to bring it up. Something to note this season is capitalizing on our set pieces, more so our corners. Absolutely agree with you. I don't think we've scored a corner so far this season. And we do have really good corner takers in the side. Marmoush, we know, is a great corner taker. Cherki, we know, is a great corner taker. But Foden has been our chief corner taker so far this season. And even though he didn't have his best season last year, obviously, the one area of his game that massively went up was actually set-piece delivery, bizarrely. And his corners this season have been really good. So the problem isn't putting the ball into the right area from corners, or we can extend this to free kicks as well, because Foden and Cherki have illustrated they can do that as well. The actual problem is converting those chances, because the corner taker, i.e. Foden this season, should have had about 3 or 4 assists. So the delivery isn't a problem, but we do definitely need to be attacking them a little bit better, or just like getting a better connection on them, because there have been free headers sometimes as well, like that Rodri one against Spurs. A free header. There was a Guardiola one, a free header, not even like competing with another player. Maybe our players are so confused at like a ball from a corner actually arriving to them, like, oh my God, what do I do with this now? I didn't think I'd ever get this far. That plankton meme from SpongeBob. I didn't think I'd ever get this far. Look at like a side like Arsenal. Now, are they going too far the other way by becoming reliant on them? Perhaps, but they are still a massive threat from them. We right now, and I've not really been a threat from corners in a minute. So the delivery is great. The execution on the finishing needs to be much better. Last question coming up. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on the video. If you want an extended version of this video where I ask even more questions, and if you want your questions guaranteed to be answered, then do consider becoming a member of the channel, because I'm going to be uploading a members only extension version of this Ask Nobbins video. You can become a channel member by clicking the join button, or the link is in every single video description. The final one is from Thunderstorm9. I think if Echeverri is to have a career at City, he needs to be a left wing, back up to Doku. He's behind Foden and Cherki in the number 10 role. It's so hard to predict what's going to happen with these younger players. Echeverri is still so young, he's still so raw, and there is definitely a really high ceiling, high potential player in there, and it makes it so hard to predict, because he could absolutely become a player far better than Foden, far better than Cherki, far better than Doku, far better than Marmoush, whoever. But right now, we don't have the evidence of that yet. His loan at Leverkusen isn't going particularly well in respect of minutes. I believe that the City higher-ups wanted him to go to Girona, and he and his camp were adamant they wanted to go to Leverkusen. That's clearly, in hindsight, was the incorrect decision. They should have really listened to City. Probably was guaranteed far more minutes at Girona compared to Leverkusen. And it is really hard to picture where does he fit in and where does he play. In my Echeverri analysis video, I basically said we were linked with Wirtz at that time, but I just said a general elite attacking midfielder. I did say in that video that I struggle to see where Echeverri is going to actually fit in at City if City do sign that sort of player, and that's exactly what Cherki is. Perhaps there is a developmental path. It depends on what his expectations are, though. It also depends on how quickly he progresses. Perhaps a nice way to ease him into the side is, as you say, to play him out wide initially, maybe more as like a false winger rather than a true out-and-out touchline winger, because you need to give him access to the centre. Sadly, as I keep saying on this channel, that's another narrow player. City have got so many narrow players right now. What we should be going for is far wider players, and Echeverri doesn't really fit into that mould. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see how the loan goes, and then we'll have to see what happens with City's other players. You never know what's going to happen, though, do you? Maybe a player gets a massive injury, and then that gives Echeverri a pathway into the side. It depends on what his expectations are and how he can progress. That was the video. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question for me, make sure to leave it in the comment section. I'll try to review it next time. Shout out to all of my beautiful channel members. As I mentioned earlier, there will be an extended Ask Nobbins for my channel members of a certain tier. So do make sure that you are joining the channel. Make sure you are a member of the Ultras Club if you want even more exclusive content and Nobbins in your life. Who wouldn't want that? No one, that's who. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.